Yes, folks, here we go. My G.I. Joe Classified Series Dusty pre-order has arrived today. It's another action figure unboxing and review on MoDXtra Games and Collectibles, which seems to be all I'm doing at the moment because it's just been pre-order after pre-order, dropping on the doorstep. I haven't done any comic books or trading cards or statues or anything else. It's all been action figures and all been Hasbro as well. This is import stock. I've been continuing to purchase my G.I. Joe Classified Series figures through independent UK retailers who are importing the stock. If you take a look back through the channel, you see that I've done a video talking about how it's become a UK-based Hasbro Pulse exclusive. And while it's costing me a little bit more, that is, of course, giving me the added benefit of things coming through the door just a little bit earlier. So that's really super fun and super pleasing. Yeah, so another Joe, another good guy for the shelf. It's in the windowed packaging, this one still. So we're seeing the transition taking place right now. I've had a few windowless boxes through the doorstep, but this is obviously before the changeover, which gives us a peek at the figure and all the extra goodies that are hanging out in the box. So looking forward to getting my hands on those and playing around. Well, this lovely bit of painted artwork down in the corner there, following the standard pattern that all the windowed packages had. And then that artwork is also mirrored on the side of the box here. We've got this little shot of him leaning up against a wall with his rifle out. And then this painted artwork here of him checking out some tracks in the road, hunting down some cobras out in the desert there. So, yeah, that's a lovely piece of artwork. Obviously got this sort of dust-based theme. It's been painted in this very kind of dusty way to symbolize the fact that he is a, what would you call it, a sand specialist? Desert specialist, something like that. Then on the back, it's the big promotional G.I. Joe postery thingy. Did we ever confirm it? Is that Kamakura there? Did that ever get pinned down? Are we confirmed that that's Kamakura in the middle? But in any case, yeah, we've seen that, you know, a bazillion times now on the back of G.I. Joe Classified Series boxes. That's my import sticker all the way from Hong Kong. All the legal bollocks and malarkey down the bottom here. Then on the other side, Dusty's number 49 in the line. And then we've got the data card here. Again, I've not cross-referenced it. If you want to do that, you can go to the website. But it looks to me here like it's some sort of... he's been awarded some kind of shield, some prize, some sort of prize. He knows how to load bullets into his gun. Loves a good chat, does Dusty. You know, goes and hangs out at the barber's on a Saturday morning for a bit of conversation. And he's a fan of Westerns. Actually, I know I'm joking, but Dusty, you would definitely imagine to be the type of character who likes a good Western, you know what I mean? But there we go. Okay, let's get this bad boy open. I've already popped the tape so I can slide him out from the bottom here with ease. Oh, there it is. Paperwork. So, standard G.I. Joe, good guy backing card there in the blue with the star on it. And then Dusty is in a blister pack. So we've got a big backpack for him there. Here's sand goggles. His helmet with his little dust cover on it. A dagger. Oh, is that a second set of dust goggles? Are they the same? You're supposed to get two of them. Interesting. The magazine for his rifle itself, and then, there we go, I hate that noise. And there we go, there's Dusty with all his accessories out of the packaging. So, if you're new around these parts, I'll just let you know that, put it down, stop playing. I can never resist the urge to start playing with these figures as soon as I get them out of the boxes. Finish your voiceover first, Chris. Yes, so here's Dusty out of the packet. I'm going to go away, pose him up, have a play, get hands-on with him for a couple of days, and then I'll be back to share my review thoughts with you after I've got more familiar with the figure. So for me, I'll see you in a few days' time, but for you, you'll see me in 3, 2, 1... And here we are then, folks. I am back and ready to share some review thoughts. I've had Dusty in hand for a couple of days now. I've posed him up. I've had some man-child playtime. Took a couple of photos. Put him in amongst the display for a little bit. In fact, I reconfigured my whole G.I. Joe display for Dusty. There was a thing going on where I wanted to balance out the colours and his Dusty combats, his desert-y colours kind of match up with Spirit's combat trousers, but kind of... Anyway, it was a whole thing. I'm in the weeds. Get back on track. But I'm ready now to come back and share some review thoughts and let you know what I think of the figure. And if you're new around these parts, a MoDXtra Games and Collectibles review follows a very simple structure that is 3 parts. Part 1 is aesthetic. I'm going to talk in the first instance about how the figure looks, take a look at some of the detail, talk about some of the visual qualities and elements of the figure and whether I like them or not. Then into the second day, where we're going to look at articulation and talk about how poseable he is, what kind of stances and poses can you get him into. And then third and finally, we're going to talk accessories and added value. What's all the extra goodies that come with the figure that help us tell stories with our figure and have much more fun playtimes. And with all that said and done, that should conclude my review. And if you've been thinking about picking up a Dusty of your own, then my thoughts today, it is my hope, will help you make up your decision. So let's not hang around, let's get straight into it, and let's kick off the aesthetic section. Okay, then I brought Dusty a little bit closer to the camera so that we can get a better appreciation of those visual aesthetic elements. And yeah, there's a lot to like, but there's a few bits here and there that might influence your decision as to whether Dusty's the figure for you. I'll go over those now, but I'll call it out up top. I think the pros vastly outweigh the cons. They always do with G.I. Joe Classified. Let's get started with the head sculpt. Look at this head sculpt. I'm a big fan of the G.I. Joe Classified head sculpts. I think they are the best in the Hasbro line for sure, and in fact they're better than some of the other figure ranges that I collect from other companies as well. There's just something about all the key kind of facial features that are really spot on. They're just really helping me tell the story and the narrative that I'm looking to tell with my figures. I mean, as we get in even closer, you can see the cheekbones, the nose shape, the chin, the way his jaw is, he's got that kind of steel jaw, serious thing going on. I love the way they do eyes on G.I. Joe Classified as well. That's just like a really steely soldier stare. This guy's seen some shit, you know what I mean? As many of his colleagues have too. And Dusty looks like he takes his soldiering very seriously. He's got a very serious kind of look and feel about him, and I appreciate that. I totally appreciate that. I also like, maybe this is my headcanon, this is possibly my imagination doing this, but does it look like his lips bit dry and a bit chapped, like perhaps he's been out in the desert too long, needs to get a bit of the old lip balm up, got a bit of sand sores going on there? Possibly so, or it's my imagination. Either way, it works for me. And he's got the camo on the face. That's a lovely, neat paint applications there, the paint applications on the lips and the eyes, all really spot on. The hair as well, nicely sculpted, if maybe a little bit bland. Could perhaps have done with a little bit of something more going on in the hair there. Oh, am I out of focus? Bring you closer, Dusty. There you go. Yeah, a little bit more going on with the hair, but it still is really well sculpted, just perhaps a bit of a wash to give it some lift. I'll explain a bit more about that in a minute, though, because we've got the helmet to talk about. But yeah, the head sculpt, just absolutely, really... I know some people have found it a touch nondescript, and I get that. I do get that. And you could argue that he is the least expressionless of all the steely-eyed, soldiery faces that we've had with G.I. Joe Classified, but I don't agree. I think that's absolutely spot on. He's just got a steely stare into the distance, thinking about how he's going to ambush a couple of sand vipers, you know what I mean? While he's out in the Middle East or something. So, yeah, it's a good head sculpt, and I'm a big fan of the way they do their head sculpting at G.I. Joe Classified. The size and shape of the body is good, it's solid, it's the more kind of athletic-looking G.I. Joe Classified book rather than the more muscular book, and that's fine by me. That's how I would imagine Dusty to look and feel. The colour scheme's decent as well. We've got, obviously, the more kind of sand-coloured brown combat fatigues there with the darker brown camouflage pattern and trimmings like his webbing and his canvas belt and his boots and such like. Although, one thing I will say about the colour scheme that stands out to me, and is probably standing out to you here now as I've got him on camera, this section here at the top of the chest is very shiny. It's really shiny compared to the more matte look and feel of the rest of the uniform. Very plasticky up top there. Now, it's not as egregious as, say, what have I criticised recently for looking really plasticky? The Marvel Legends, the retro cardback Marvel Legends Apocalypse. He's very plasticky and shiny. But it just seems a shame that there's one little section at the top here around the collar is clashing a bit with the rest of the uniform, and it stands out. I can't stop looking at this kind of shiny plastic bit at the top, which is a real shame because that area there has got some lovely details, like the name tag and the little Stars and Stripes flag there. Oh, got my finger in front of it. There you go. Name tag, little Stars and Stripes flag there, and then the G.I. Joe classified, the G.I. Joe tag on the other chest as well. Nice little touch there. Lots of character and personality in that. But they're going to put it on top of this really shiny plasticky looking bit that you can see as I brought it even closer doesn't marry up to the rest of the figure. However, despite that, you've got the usual standard of G.I. Joe classified series, kind of detaily texture and depth. You can see the creases in his shirt. You've got the fabric texture in the combat trousers, got the shiny little knee pads on him, the little elasticated wrist cuff bits on his jumper. You can see all the folds and creases in there. There's texture in the belts and the straps, and these are all sculpted as well, so you can see the clasps and the little padded sections and the pockets and everything in them, so that's all nice and lovely. Same as usual, really. I just wish that the sculpted plastic aspects that go over the top here have a little bit of extra paint application detail in them, like a few, like that clasp in the middle there could have afforded to be maybe a different colour, like a little metallic or something. I don't know, these finer details. And these shoulder pads don't look particularly leathery, which is a disappointment because I've seen them do some really good leather effects on the G.I. Joe classified figs. Some other little elements, that show they've really thought it through. You can see his little green t-shirt, just the top of the neck there, poking out through his collar. That's a really lovely touch. Oh, one thing that does also stand out that I'm perhaps a bit critical of is this section down here. So what they've done, in order to show the way that the bottom of his shirt is kind of sticking out from under the tight clamp of the belt, is they've moulded it as a piece to go over the top that sits underneath the belt section itself, and that kind of doesn't work because it's too flush. No, not flush. What's the opposite of flush? Too apart from the main core of the body. It looks like it's just this weird little skirt section he's had sewn in to his canvas belt there, which doesn't work, which is a shame because I get what they were going for. I'm not sure practically how they would engineer that. They've obviously done the best that they can in order to create that visual effect, but you can kind of see, because of the way it's attached to the bottom of the belt, it doesn't flow very well, so it just looks like an odd little skirt, like a really, really short, very mini skirt, you know what I mean, rather than just a little bit of his shirt popping out under the bottom of the tightness of the belt, which is a shame. I get what they were going for there. It's obviously a manufacturing engineering problem, but it catches the eye sometimes, catches the eye. And then the boots, have got all these lovely sculpted details in them. You can see the laces, the straps and everything. They don't look quite as leathery as some previous G.I. Joe classified figure boots look. Could have maybe done with making that look a little bit more leathery. However, I'm not sure. Are desert boots leathery? Anyway, someone out there who's got a bit more kind of military know-how than me might let me know. But yeah, when I think about like Zorana, who's recently come, her boots had this great leathery effect in them, which Dusty's boots do not. However, they are very well sculpted. There's no two ways about it. So generally speaking, overall, Dusty's MoDXtra Games and Collectibles thumbs up in terms of aesthetic. I like what we've got going on here. High standard, usual high standard when it comes to the head sculpt. He's interesting in terms of representing that different type of military operation, so he's adding a bit of colour variety and style variety to the display, and I always lean towards the guys that bring a little bit something more than your standard, green, dark green, light green, bit of brown, dark brown, light brown, and some black for flavour. The jungle and woodland type camouflage. So I'm appreciating that we've got something a little bit different going on there. Yes, there are some bothersome bits. This shiny chest really irks me. I don't know why they would let themselves down quite like that. It's the type of thing that G.I. Joe Classified normally take care of business with, but they've just this little bit here, and it's also framed by these straps as well to say pay attention to this really plasticky bit at the top there. So that's been bothering me. I'm a bit upset about that, but overall it's up to the usual aesthetic standard that G.I. Joe Classified are up to. I have heard tale told on one of the G.I. Joe Classified series discords that I belong to. Shout out to me peeps over there, that some have criticised him for being a bit nondescript, and I can kind of sort of see that. He is a fairly standard kind of soldier boy. There's a little element of flavour that's kind of missing. You know, when you compare him to, I don't know, Stalker, for example, who's also a fairly standard, you know, military gear kind of guy. Stalker feels like there's just a little touch more personality. He's a little bit more idiosyncratic as a character on the shelf than Dusty appears to be. And you might argue his helmet takes care of that, but I'll talk about that in a minute because there's things to say about the helmet. But I'm not sure I agree. I like him, and he's a handsome chap. Look at him. There's a story there. He's a heartbreaker, is Dusty, when he's on shore leave. I'm certain of that. Look at that. Just get a bit of lip balm on those chapped, sun-bitten lips, and he'll be fine. So I get it. I get that criticism, but that's not where I'm at with it. Overall, I'm generally happy. Even the little skirt effect thing's not bothering me too much. It's just that shiny section, literally just there, right, framed up by these straps. That's the one bit that has hit the cons column. Otherwise, overall, yeah, loving it. Right, let's talk now about articulation, shall we? So getting started above the shoulders then, we can see on the head here, we've got a ball joint at the top of the neck and a ball joint at the top of the neck, giving pretty decent motion. Good down, decent up, and then a bit of tilt and all the side to side. Full X-assist is all there as standard with the G.I. Joe Classified. One observation that I've had, I'll return to this when I talk about his gun. There's a whole thing about the stands, the little, legs on the barrel of his gun, but you can't get his head far back enough to lie him flat looking down the sights of his gun while it's got the legs out. So that bothered me when I was trying to take some photos yesterday, but yeah, the head's all good. Then we've got butterfly joints in the shoulders there. They spin all the way around and can go up to a T shape like so. Swivel at the bicep and tricep. Lovely double elbow that you can get up to there. Then the standard pegged hands, which have got the swivel. And then this hand on the right-hand side's got the up and down hinge. And this one on the left-hand side has got the in and out hinge, like so. Then we've got the ab crunch joint in here. You can see that there. Gives him good forward and good back. And then there's a hinge swivel at the waist that is hidden by this belt contraption thing that's going on. And then the legs, these are, I'm pretty confident they're reuse. I couldn't tell you who from, but I'm pretty confident that they are. They've got the standard drop-down joint there in the groin area. So you've got the good Russian ballet splits there. Like so. Then we've got swivel at the top of the thigh. Double knee, nice and pinless as well. Look, double knee all the way up to there. Swivel at the top of the boot. And then the standard forward and back hinge and rocker on the feet. So I've really got no other choice but to give the articulation a thumbs up on Dusty. It's the standard G.I. Joe Classified articulation that we've come to know and love. I'm a big fan of it. I really do wish that the G.I. Joe Classified team would go on secondment with Marvel Legends and most definitely Black Series. What the fuck is going on with articulation with Star Wars Black Series? I do not know. Overall, very happy with the G.I. Joe Classified series articulation, and Dusty is no different. So yay, big thumbs up. Okay, well, let's now that I've mentioned the gun, let's move on to talk about the accessories and added value elements. So let's get started with these, the goggles, because I mentioned these when I unboxed them going, why are there two sets of goggles? Is that supposed to be the case? And yes, it is. You can see they've got larger straps on them because one set of goggles, this one here in my left hand, is to go over the top of his helmet, and this set of goggles in my right hand is to go over the top of his head when he's not wearing the helmet. So yeah, another example of the G.I. Joe Classified series team really thinking through what they're doing. The goggles are nice, they're a decent sculpt, they've got, you can see that kind of reflective paint application there on the eyepieces, and yeah, they're really decent, they look good. The ones that fit over the top of his head fit nice and easy like so, and you can do lots of stuff with them. I've had them here kind of resting across his forehead, but they can go all the way down over the top of his eyes. A little bit straightening up, and it's a good fit, no problems there. And I like these because they add to the storytelling element. You know, you can do some different kind of variety in your photos, different variety in your display stands to tell a bit of a story. And in this instance, sandstorm incoming, or, you know, he's riding on a snow buggy, sand dune buggy thing. I don't know. Anyway, there's stories to be told using this little accessory here. So I'm a big fan of the goggles. Like I say, I've been adding them to having them sitting across the top of his forehead like that to add a little bit of flavour and personality to his look. Because as I mentioned before, I feel like he's just missing a little bit of something. Then we got his helmet here, and this I'm not a fan of. Absolutely not a fan of. It's a single molded piece of this kind of rubbery plastic. It's obviously got the helmet at the top with the kind of sand dust shielding. I don't know what you call that, but it's there down the back across his neck and over the top of his shoulders with a couple of straps hanging down. But fundamentally, the problem with this is that it doesn't fit his head proper. It's too big. I can't get it. I don't know. Is there a knack to this that I'm missing, or am I putting it on his head wrong? Do you start at the front and then like really vacuum it down like that or something? I'm not sure. It does not sit right. It does not sit straight. It looks too big compared to the proportions of his head. The rubbery kind of style and design of it does not work. They've done headgear so well in G.I. Joe Classified with the berets, like Flint's beret and Beachhead and Stalker or Sergeant Slaughter's hat, all that good stuff. Major Blood's helmet is a good example. Zartan's hood, all great headgear, but this one, it just looks enormous on his head. Look at that. Absolutely massive. Now, I think that's because they've maybe sized it up in a way so that it fits on his head while he's wearing the goggles too, but look how it's sort of like, I don't know, it's just not working for me, the helmet, at all. And I have not had him on display, and I've taken very few photos of him wearing the helmet. I've been sticking with the goggles on the top of the forehead there for a little bit of headgear flavour, because this thing is, that's sadly a bit of a fail. Then there's the backpack. This is a single moulded piece of plastic in brown. It's very nicely sculpted. Look at the details on that. Got his little carabiner there and some bits strapped on the bottom there. Is that some kind of tent maybe? And lots of water, because you need lots of water when you're out in the desert, don't you? So yeah, nicely sculpted, lovely bits of detail. Again, like with many of these sort of plastic moulded pieces that they use with the figures, it could have done with a touch of paint. I'd have liked maybe the caps on the bottles or some of these straps to have a slightly different brown colour, but that is what it is. I think they're going to keep rolling with that for some time. Fits on his back with a peg. Nice straightforward business that there. Goes in through the hole on the straps, into the hole on the back, and Dusty's got his backpack. And then finally, it's weaponry. He's got a little dagger here, and then his rifle. Let's just talk about the dagger for a second. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's quite small, but they've got the metallic painted blade, and then some nice sculpted detail on the grip on the handle there, which is all good and well. This can be stored on the figure's body. He's got a little knife sheath on his ankle down here, which just, warm. Simple as that. Nice and tight fit. That's not coming out anytime soon. Although, while I'm down here, these straps can be a bit of a fiddle sometimes. I've been trying to keep them nice and straight, but haven't succeeded to date. I really like the rifle. This is definitely stands out as something a little bit different. It's an entirely new sculpt, at least as far as I'm aware. Entirely new sculpt for Dusty, but it's got a whole different aesthetic and feel compared to a lot of the other weapons that we've had in the past. We've got these little legs here. These little kind of steadying legs for, I don't know, taking long distance shots to keep your sight a bit steady. Any of you gun folks out there might be able to enlighten me a bit more about what they're called and how they work, but there they are. They're on a hinge so that they can be used and moved around. I kind of have them poking up forward like that, generally speaking. Lots of nice sculpted detail in the weapon. Got the sight and all these little kind of grip bits and what have you. That's all nice. And then the magazine is removable like so, and just pops into this channel at the back there. So yeah, it's a nice rifle. Very, very pleased with that one. Just stands out as something a little bit different on the shelf, which is good because, as I've mentioned a couple of times now in this review, Dusty could do with just a little bit of something else to give him a bit more flavour. The rifle is a bit of a funny one to get into his hand because the usual kind of poke and twist that you do to get the trigger finger through the trigger guard there, you can't do because of the magazine. So I've generally been removing the magazine first to slide it in, like so, and then adding the magazine back to the rifle, although I'm struggling to do that now. I'm on camera because I'm trying to hold the figure in view, but you get the idea. So I slide that in afterwards. So just a little pointer from someone who's had a bit of experience using the figure there. The gun fits nicely in the trigger fingers. There's no problem with that. But the old tuck and twist maneuver that we're all so very familiar with, you need to pop that magazine out and put it in afterwards. Well, that's my advice. So, broadly speaking, I'm generally quite happy with the added value. The accessory selection is good. It definitely helps me tell my stories with my action figures, so it's getting a thumbs up. The helmet's not on him right now. It's worthless to me, the helmet. It's going to go in my bits box and rarely ever come out again. But I like the rifle. I like the backpack. I like the head-size goggles. I tell you what, though, I did find myself wishing he had a handgun. I felt like maybe there could have been a pistol holster on this side, or maybe here in the centre of his chest hiding this plastic bit, you know, with a pistol in it. I just felt like maybe he needed a handgun, and that feels like a little bit of an omission to me, but overall it's a good selection. I'm really into his rifle. I think that is just very, very different, stands out. It's got a lot of personality and character to it that separates it from some of the more kind of standard rifles that we've seen through the course of the G.I. Joe Classified series releases. So overall, I'm giving him a thumbs up with the small print that I think a lot of people are not going to bother with that helmet, unless they can find a way to make it fit, in which case, please do swing back round by the video and drop into the comments and give me your pointers, because I can't make it work. I think it looks bobbins. Figure comparison time now, folks, and here's Dusty with Stalker. You could definitely see the distinction between the kind of jungles of East Asia, where Stalker operates, and the deserts of North Africa, where Dusty operates. But you can see they're very similar builds and shapes. In fact, I think I've found where the reused legs are, because that's the same legs and boots, isn't it? Did I criticise the leather effect on Stalker's boots? I'll have to go back and watch my video, because maybe I didn't. But yeah, it's the same book on this pair. You can see around the sleeves, the cuffs, the elasticated cuffs are the same. You can see the seam lines and pockets and whatnot are the same. So yeah, good looking figures. I don't know why, I just feel like Stalker's got a bit more personality, comparable speaking. Maybe it's because of the scarf and the fact that he can actually wear his hat properly. Here's Dusty with the Tiger Force Outback, my very favourite G.I. Joe figure at the moment, I think. Maybe, I don't know. Perhaps Sergeant Slaughter or Storm Shadow. Anyway, he's one of my faves, but I think these two look great together. You can see the difference in the figure and the musculature there. Outback being a bit more beefy, a bit more bulky by comparison to Dusty's kind of more athletic build there. But yeah, good looking figs nonetheless. Quick one with Dusty next to the Sergeant. You can see the height difference there. Sergeant Slaughter is significantly taller, and also you can see in the much more top-heavy, broad-shouldered, muscular build, the distinction between the two. I'm basically comparing all my G.I. Joe figures at the minute to Sergeant Slaughter, because he's one of my new arrivals, and he's hanging around a lot. I'm playing with him loads still. So there's Dusty with Sergeant Slaughter. And here's Dusty with the Cobra Trooper? Or is that the infantry? One of the two. Cobra Trooper, Cobra Infantry, Cobra Troopery dude here, because I thought I'd better throw a villain in the mix, but he was also out the box because I was using him to take some photos with earlier on. So there he is. And also just to show off some of the kind of different colour schemes and stuff that are available in the line. Also, this guy shows how you make a helmet fit proper. So there we go. There he is with the Cobra Trooper, maybe Infantry guy. And here we are then, folks. Here is Dusty going around on the turntable in the kind of pose that I settled into last night when I finished taking some photographs and popped him on the shelf. Kind of going for a bit of a movement shot, trying to get something a bit dynamic going with him. And overall, I'm pleased. I think he's a solid addition to the line. I think that's the key phrase, though, solid addition, because he's not like a standout fig. He's not a Zorana, who's blown me away. I'm really into my Zorana figure. He's not a Sergeant Slaughter. He's not a Storm Shadow in his bright white ninja gear. You know, he's not like a standout figure in that way. And I must admit, the dusty camouflage colours have blended more into the colour scheme of the display than I thought it might, but it does add a little something. It's like a jigsaw piece that goes into... How to describe it? Like, you've done your jigsaw and you're working on the sky and you've got a little patch of blue sky that's all just blue sky, but one's missing so it stands out. And Dusty's like the piece that you were missing, and you slot it in, you go, well, it's just another bit of blue sky, but it's finished the jigsaw. Does that make sense? I don't know if that was like one of these random Chris Tangent analogies, but that's kind of how I feel about him, is that he's a bit of blue sky that looks the same as the rest of the blue sky in the jigsaw, but it would look odd without it. You know? So I'm broadly quite pleased. Yes, there are some things to criticise. The shiny top bit on the chest, that is just, G.I. Joe, what were you doing? And the helmet, pointless. Absolutely pointless. That little skirty bit doesn't bother me as much, but I understand why there is some criticism out there. And now that I made my own video, I'll go check out some other folks' videos to see how far apart we really are on that decision. But yeah, I'm glad he's been added to the line. I think we need that variety in the different types of soldiers, the different types of military operations that G.I. Joe would be engaging in. We've been very green up till this date. I like that he is a bit of colour variety, even though he is blending. And the rifle. I love the rifle. And that'll do. Solid. Decent. That's where I'm going with it. I wouldn't say he's blown me away as much as other G.I. Joe classified figs, but I like him. So there we go, there's my final thoughts. I hope this helps you make your decision if you're thinking about picking up a Dusty. If you've enjoyed the review today, please take a moment to give me a thumbs up down below. It's just a click for you, takes a second, but it means ever so much for me. If you're not subscribed, please do subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you around these parts again sometime soon. So yeah, have a great day, and I'll see you later, folks.